started?
I think so. You probably don't.
Okay, hello. Thank you for visiting our project. This is Mr. Dennis Fancett, who's the chairman of Senrug. He's come here to talk to us about reopening the Blythe-to-Tyne Railway, which has been closed for some time. We hope you don't mind answering some questions we have for you.
No, I'm very pleased to. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, it's very fine.
It's our pleasure, thank you.
Why do you personally think that the line should reopen?
Well, I believe that it will help regenerate South East Northumberland, particularly Ashington and Blythe. It will provide access for employment. People will be able to use the railway to get to work. So it will just help with the economic recovery in this area.
Right.
Okay, so obviously we've identified the environmental, economic and geographical benefits of reopening the line. So which one do you think will have the biggest impact on Northumberland?
I think it's the economic benefits. It is about providing access for employment opportunities because Newcastle and Cobalt Business Park is where the jobs are, but we have to provide a way for people to get there easily and effectively. And the more people are earning money, the more they're spending it in the locality, so it's the economic benefit.
Yes, right. This idea of reopening the line's been in the works for about 10 years now. And in the past there was some barriers to prevent the reopening of it, but do you think those barriers have gone and things will be easier as of now?
I think so, and although there have been some technical barriers, I think the biggest barrier has been a kind of a lack of can-do attitude. And we've been campaigning for this actually for about 8 years, and I think during that time people have begun to realise it could happen. It would be very easy to make it happen. It's far easier than lots of the other reopening schemes you see up and down the country. There's one happening in Edinburgh at the minute, Edinburgh to down the old Waverley route. They've got to completely lay new track, whereas this scheme doesn't have to do that. So it's unique, it's relatively easy. And in 2008, we chartered a train to run around the line, and I think that helped everyone realise that it would bring so much benefits and would be so easy to do.
Okay, so why is this project being specifically targeted at secondary schools?
Well, we had to make a decision. I don't know much about what happens in schools now, and what year groups can put together DVDs, etc. So we decided actually to focus on secondary schools. Also, when we come to judge the competition, it's not fair if a lot of, say, 15-year-olds have put in an entry and a lot of 6-year-olds have put in an entry. It's not really fair to judge between that. So to try and narrow the age range down, I think we actually said middle or high schools or secondary schools.
Yeah. If the line was to reopen, would the students, like from the school, be responsible for making the design of the stations along the line?
Well, sadly, probably not. Network Rail would do that.
Yes.
But what is interesting, there's a number of stations across the country, and in fact you'll see this at Morpeth Station, where a local school in Morpeth have created some murals which hang on the station. So I think the actual basic engineering of the station, Network Rail would want to do. They've got some formulas, but once the station is there, I know the current operator, Northern Rail, they're very keen to see schools adopt local stations, put some of their artwork up, take an interest. If there's grass and places for sort of plants and things to look after that. And certainly Northern Rail have an adopt a station scheme, and I'm sure that they would be delighted if schools wanted to do that in their local stations.
Right.
How does Senrug plan to make the line sustainable if it is reopened?
Well, every single line like this across the country, a commuter line, actually makes a loss. So no local commuter lines are sustainable in that sense. That's not the way rural railways work in this country. The big intercity lines, which go down to London and up to Edinburgh, they will make a profit. So the companies which run those lines pay money to the government, but then the government pays some of that money back to the companies running the local lines. And the line to Ashington would be exactly the same. So I'm not trying to pretend it would make a profit. The issue is how much subsidy does it need based on the degree of economic benefits that it gives. And we think the case for the line to Ashington and Woodhorn is extremely strong, and I suspect it would require less subsidy to run than some of the other local and rural lines you see across the country.
Right. And finally, if the station, like all the stations along the line, were to reopen, what would your plans be for the future? Like, would you make them future-proof so that, like, if new technologies come along, they'd be able to support it?
Well, that's quite an interesting point. Certainly as far as Bedlington, and then the branch going from Bedlington to back to Morpeth, that part of the railway line has got to take the new high-speed trains, which are currently being built by Hitachi at Newton Aycliffe. Now, those trains won't stop at stations, unfortunately, but it's just that if the main line was blocked at Cramlington, then trains could still get up to Edinburgh going another way. I think in terms of technology, what I'm looking for is ability to buy tickets easily. So train companies, I mean, the stations won't be staffed, but they'll be looking at how they can sell you a ticket onto your mobile phone and that kind of thing, and that will increasingly replace the ticket machines you see on platforms. Customer information systems, so you need to know not just the time of the next train, but if you're going to Newcastle and then you're going to change at Newcastle and go somewhere else, you need to know the times of the trains from Newcastle as well.
Yes.
And then when the basic line is open, there's other things we want to do. So we would like to then come back and have a look at how best to serve Blythe Town Centre, possibly extend the line to New Biggin on the Sea, and we need to look at Seg Hill and Seaton Delaval. If there's not a station at both initially, then we would want to come back and do that. So there's all kinds of ways, you know, the project could develop further, but the base idea is just to get the line to Ashington and Woodhorn open.
Right.
Would you be able to explain the government's reluctance to put money forward into rail travel, specifically in Northumberland?
Well, that's a very leading question, so I have to be a little bit careful as to how I answer that. I think two things. The government, before it puts money into anything, needs to see this kind of analysis done. You can't just say to the government, we've had a good idea, give us lots of millions of pounds. You need to be able to prove to the government that the idea will work, that people will be able to use the line, and as I say, what they call the cost-benefit ratio meets their formula. Now, I actually sat in a meeting with Northumberland County Council and the Department for Transport where this information was presented, and the Department for Transport were impressed, so we're kind of getting there. But I think on top of that, with rail projects, there is a bias towards London and South East England, and so part of what our group does is to campaign and say, well, the North East needs new railway lines as well. And there is a bias towards road projects rather than rail projects, which, if you think of it, is bizarre because it's far, far more difficult to prove the benefit of a road project because people don't pay to drive down the road. So if they improve the big Moor Farm roundabout, which they're doing again, I think that costs £5 million. How do you prove the benefit of that? Well, for 10 roundabout improvements, you could get this railway line reopened. And I think it's part of my job to make those points, and so people overcome their prejudices and start to put money in local rail schemes.
Anything else to say now?
No. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I just wish you guys well with the project, and obviously we want to see the line reopened, and you'll know that there would be a station at Manners that will serve Northumberland College, so by the time it opens, you might have left school and be going there, and you'll be able to use the railway line.
Well, thank you for coming, Mr. Fancett.
Thank you very much.
It's been very helpful. Thanks for watching.